Heart's Ann Wilson blasts the old guys group, including Robert Palmer, Led Zeppelin, Rat, and Van Halen. I'm John Bowden from Rock History Music. There's a can-to-do interview with Ann Wilson, formerly of Heart. Should I say formerly of Heart? They're kind of in hiatus until Ann and Nancy Wilson talk. And by the way, it wasn't mentioned in this Rolling Stone interview. But Ann really talks easily about some of the stuff that happened to her in the 70s. Most of us know that Barracuda, that hit from 77, is basically about their experience with Mushroom Records, their first record label, that kind of had a promotional campaign that kind of insinuated that the sisters were more than sisters. I mean, it was really in bad taste, and it was not a big hit among the band Heart. And Nancy talks about a concert in 77 opening up for the Kinks where some manager came backstage and wanted to see or meet Ann Wilson's lover, insinuating her own sister. Ann says that's what Barracuda was about. She said, first I thought of calling it Lizard or Snake, but Barracuda just had a wickedness that I thought sounded good. It had a good rhythm to it, and in the end, of course, we had that galloping guitar riff, which complemented the whole thing. Ann says she understood in rock and roll a lot of women not talking about sexual harassment. You just couldn't. She herself was afraid of being labeled a troublemaker. She also warns artists who are thinking of dressing and acting sexy as empowerment to maybe reconsider. She says, well, I think young women just coming into their power can mistake their sexual power for their actual power. I think the idea that because I'm sexy, I'm feminist is kind of immature. But as long as women think being sexy is what makes them beautiful and powerful, then it will continue. And as for the 80s, well, first of all, remember, Heart in the 70s were a rock band, but by the 80s, they had big hair and they wore corsets and lots of makeup, and it was a stylized kind of thing. Ann Wilson said she was very uncomfortable during those days. She felt uncomfortable in her own skin. But that was also the period where they had their only #1 hit album, the self-titled project from 85. It had 4 top 10 hits, What About Love, Never, These Dreams, which went to #1, and Nothing At All. In fact, the follow-up, Bad Animals, had 3 hits, and another #1 with Alone. During those days, she says, really, the big hair and everything, she kind of thought that the stylists should get just as much credit as they did, because what the fans were seeing is what the stylists had created. Other things she was not happy about in the 80s, she said, those replicated models in Robert Palmer videos, she kind of found those kind of things insulting, including the Van Halen videos. I remember liking the Van Halen videos, just being a guy, but part of me going, oh God, can they get away with that? And then there was the time of sharing some space with another big hair band. She says, quote, I think we were on the Rat tour and the lead singer came up to me and planted a big sloppy one on the side of my face, and Nancy pulled him off me. And it's no secret that, of course, Heart are huge Led Zeppelin fans. They know the guys. But what about all those infamous Led Zeppelin stories and their groupies? Ann says, it's a perfect example of rock stars feeling that because they're on stage every night, they're kings of the world, and the women afterward are subhuman. It's a great interview in Rolling Stone magazine. We'll have a link to it in the description of this video. Interestingly, even though Nancy was talked about, remember there's that big problem with her sister where Ann's husband grabbed Nancy's kids by the throat concerning a dog getting off a tour bus. We did a story not that long ago for American Thanksgiving, hoping that the sisters would talk. Not a lot came out of that. And I'm not sure if it was a precursor to this interview for the dude talking to Ann Wilson not to mention this, but he didn't mention it, which is weird because if I had an interview with Ann or Nancy Wilson, I'd be talking about the other sister and saying, what's going on? Are you talking? Who knows? What do you think? Make sure you comment on our video, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. I'm John Bowden from Rock History Music.